start my intro on my first video on this new channel. Like, I feel weird. I don't know what to say. Hey guys, my name is Kimberley Margarita. Welcome to this channel. This is my first video on my new channel. This is so weird. But for those of you who don't know me, I have a channel here on YouTube called Colourcreepp, which I do makeup tutorials, and this is a second channel that I'm going to be starting for all things not makeup related that I'm really interested in, like conspiracy theories, different phenomena, bizarre, strange, unusual mysteries. I might do some vlogs on here. If there are any videos you want to see on this channel, drop your ideas down in the comments. For today's video, I wanted to do 4 bizarre things that have happened that are unexplained. So we are just gonna jump right into this, and I hope you guys enjoy this kind of video. If you do, please make sure to subscribe for more. I'll be putting weekly videos out. Anyways, jumping right into this, for the first bizarre, strange, unusual, unexplained thing that has happened in this world is going to be about the dancing plague of 1518. And if you haven't heard of this, it is super creepy and definitely interesting, so stay tuned if you want to learn about it. So basically, the dancing plague started in July in 1518 in Strasbourg. And basically, people were getting the uncontrollable urge to dance, which, I mean, it doesn't sound that weird at first, but just keep listening. Basically, it all began when one woman started dancing in the streets, and her name was Frau Trophia. I'm sorry if I mispronounce names, I'm not so good at that. But yeah, basically she began to dance in the street, and she kept this up for nearly a week before other people started to join her. So before they knew it, there was about 3 dozen people just dancing in the street, and there wasn't even any music playing at this time. So just imagine that, seeing like a large group of people dancing to no music, and they were dancing non-stop, like night and day. So this started in July, and by August there were over 400 people dancing altogether. And they were dancing without any rest. So other people in the town were getting concerned, so they sought the advice from some of the doctors in the town. And the doctors weren't sure why this craze started or what exactly was happening, but they were blaming it on a disease called hot blood. And basically, they just encouraged them to dance the sickness away. They thought the only way this was going to be solved was if these people just continued to dance night and day, and they thought they would just dance this illness away. So the town encouraged the dancing. They brought in bands, and they made actually a stage for them to dance on too. But obviously your body can only withstand dancing non-stop for very long. So people started dropping dead from heart attack, stroke, or exhaustion. It was estimated that around 15 people would die a day. And there actually are some other cases of this happening in history, which is just super weird. So getting into the theories of why some people think this happened, modern theories suggest that it could have been caused from actually a fungus. This certain fungus is called ergot, and it was found in wheat fields, so obviously there was a lot of people who would work in the wheat fields, and this fungus has a psychoactive ingredient in it that is actually related to LSD, and the name of the ingredient found in the fungus is ergotamine, which causes side effects like LSD would. Others suggest that it could have been stress-induced psychosis, since this town was struggling with a lot of famine, poverty, disease, all that kind of stuff. So some people thought that it just could have come on by stress, which is just such a weird concept. So that's another one. So what do you guys think? Do you think it could have been a fungus? Do you think it could have just been from stress? A curse? Let me know your thoughts down below, because this has never been figured out. Like, people were just dancing until they died, and they just literally would not stop. It's just absolutely bizarre, and I really want to know your guys' thoughts about that, so leave them down in the comments. And the next bizarre happening we are going to be talking about is the ice woman from Minnesota. So basically what happened was a woman was frozen solid, and she ended up coming back to life completely with absolutely no side effects. And this woman's name was Jean Hilliard. This happened on December 20th in 1980 in Minnesota. And a man opened his back door in the morning to find a woman laying there absolutely frozen stiff. The previous night, Jean had actually run her car off the road. It was obviously super cold and snowing a lot there, so her car ran off the road. She was trying to find help and get to the nearest neighbor, but unfortunately she froze before she was able to make it. And it was minus 25 degrees out, so that's pretty dang cold. She was immediately taken to a hospital once she was found, and once she was there, the doctors actually couldn't even pierce her skin with a needle because she was that frozen solid. Her body temperature was even too low to be read on a thermometer, which is insane. Her eyes were absolutely frozen solid and they were not responding to any light. And I'm going to read a quote from Dorothy Killian, and she was one of the nurses who was working when Jean came in. She was so cold, it was like reaching into a freezer, like picking out a frozen stick of wood. Her face was absolutely white, just this ashen death look. We did hook her up to a monitor and we got this agonal rhythm, like one beat. It was just like one and nothing, then two. We knew that had something, but that's a death rhythm. And this is a quote from the doctor who was treating her, whose name is Ryan Kelly. She was severely frostbitten, none of her limbs would bend or move, and really things looked very grim. When a person gets frostbite, what we're basically talking about is freezing of the limbs. That actually means ice crystals forming in the cells, and in doing so, they destroy many of the cells in the body. After the hands and feet maybe start the initial stages of frostbite, and the core temperature of the body drops, the heart, the lungs, the internal organs of the abdomen, the brain, when those start to cool, it becomes more and more difficult for them to perform their functions until finally they stop. At that point, the patient would more than likely die. So once they knew how bad Jean's state was, a local pastor from a church was called in, and with the help from him and some of her family and friends, a prayer chain was started around 9 a.m. that morning, and there was approximately 30 people who were praying for her for several hours. And so about 2 hours after that was started, she was going into violent convulsions, which was actually a good sign because her body was showing activity. But even though this was a good sign, the doctors were not hopeful at all, just because they figured her brain would be severely damaged once she regained consciousness. And also amputation seemed inevitable. They thought they were absolutely going to have to amputate her limbs. But strangely enough, she actually did end up waking up not too long after this. And even though she was slightly confused and didn't really remember what happened, her mental state was actually okay. So in total, she spent 49 days in the hospital, but ended up making a complete recovery with no injuries. And again, she was completely fine mentally. So this was definitely considered some kind of a miracle. The doctors have absolutely no idea how she went from being to this state to waking back up and having no permanent damage from this. They don't know how that was physically possible, whether it was the power of prayer, or some say that since she did have some alcohol in her system when she started freezing, they think that maybe the alcohol that was in her body prevented her organs from completely freezing 100% and, sustaining any further damage. So when I heard about this story, I knew I just had to talk about it because it's just so bizarre. It's such a miracle that she was able to survive that, and it's just crazy. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. And the third bizarre occurrence that we're going to be talking about today is the mysterious moving coffins of the Chase family vault. Now this story is super creepy, so let's just jump right in. So this took place in Barbados in 1808. The Chase family ended up purchasing a vault because their infant child ended up passing away. So they wanted to bury her in this vault. And this vault was located in the center of the island, and it was called the Christ Paris Church. The tomb was built in 1724, and someone was actually already buried in the vault. It was a woman, and her name was Miss Thomasina Goddard. She was buried in 1907, and the Thomas family did not want to disturb her, so they decided just to leave her body as is. So 4 years after they buried their child, their other daughter actually ended up passing away, and the reasons behind this are quite sad. So her name was Dorcas, and it was rumored that her dad was quite abusive to her. He had quite a reputation of being cruel to his family and his slaves. And some say that Dorcas, I hope I'm saying that right, I'm so bad with pronouncing names. Some say that she was unable to withstand any more of this abuse, so she actually starved herself to death. She refused to eat until she died, which is so, so sad. So her body was buried in the vault in a lead coffin beside her sister's coffin. And this family did not have any luck whatsoever, because actually just a month after she passed away, Thomas himself committed suicide. Now, when the pallbearers were opening up this vault to bury Thomas next to his daughters, what they saw inside was shocking. So when they opened up the vault and took a look at the coffins, it looked like they had just been tossed and like thrown around the vault. One of the coffins was actually upside down. So the first thought was that this place had been robbed, which would have made the most sense, but there were no valuables in the vault, and there was no way for somebody to get into this vault because the door to the vault was so heavy, it would actually take 7 or 8 men just to open it. But they did end up just assuming that it was robbers who in fact did this, and then Thomas's casket was placed in there next to his daughters. Mind you, this casket weighed over 240 pounds. And then after he was placed in there, the vault again was sealed up, which took 7 or 8 men to close this massive door. And in 1816, there was another death in the family. This was an 11-year-old. His name was Charles Brewster Ames. And so once again, they got a whole bunch of people to open the vault so they could place Charles's casket inside. And once again, all of the coffins were just totally messed up. They were not like they had been placed originally. They were just scattered all over the room. It was like they had just been tossed like just toys like all over the room, even though these are these massive, super heavy lead caskets that are not easy to pick up. But again, they didn't really know what else to do, so they just resealed the vault. But it was around this time that other people were taking interest in this, and the town was kind of wondering, you know, what the heck is going on and how is this happening? And so twice more it was opened in 1816 and 1819, and both times the exact same thing was happening. They were just strewn around the room. And some people did say when they would walk by the vault, they would hear shrieking and just really, really strange noises coming from inside, which is super creepy. And also when people would ride their horses by the vault, the horses would get super spooked. And so at this point, the governor of Barbados was very curious as to what was happening, so he became involved and he ordered the vault to be completely inspected from the inside out. So once it was completely inspected, he actually sprinkled a whole bunch of dust around the inside, and he completely sealed the door of the vault closed. And then 8 months later, he came back. The seal was still the exact same way that it was 8 months ago. Nothing had been touched from the outside, but they really wanted to go back in to see if things were the way that they had left it. But to their horror, once again, all the coffins were just thrown around the room. It seemed to be super violent this time, and the infant child's coffin actually had pieces of it chipped off. And so at this point, they didn't know what else to do, so all of the bodies were individually buried in the graveyard, and the vault was empty, and it still remains empty to this day. And there was absolutely no way that the vault could have been accessed from the outside. It was completely sealed, and all the dust that was sprinkled around had been completely untouched. So there was no way that this was happening from the outside, which is just super creepy. And there are no real theories as to why this was happening, but I mean, it just makes you wonder, because these were spirits who were not at rest whatsoever. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that one down below. That one just creeps me out just a little bit. So if you guys have anything more to add to these topics, if you guys have any knowledge on them that I didn't go over, if I missed anything, or if you guys have any of your own theories, please leave them down in the comments below, because I would love to hear them. If you have any topics that you would like me to cover on this channel, let me know. I'll definitely be taking a lot of your suggestions, and I'm super excited to add more to this channel and kind of just see where things go. So I would love to have you a part of this little family. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And also, if you would like to see a tutorial for this makeup look right here, I did upload this on my makeup channel, so I will link that down below as well. Hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!